76% of Americans live paycheck to paycheck. Is that you? I'm the CEO of 5 different companies. I wasn't born into it. We lived on welfare, but I wanted more. I created this show, The School of Wealth, helping people escape poverty like I did. I want to help you out of that consumer debt.
This is Brother Kim Carter. We just want to say thank you for reaching out to us, meeting our concerns and what we need to do. And I know you guys working hard on your side for the Carters, and that we are looking forward to be financially free.
Teach you how to increase your credit score. Teach you how to make more money at your current job or your current business. And then how to actually create generational wealth without changing your lifestyle. It is going to be a lot of fun. This is not like regular school. Hey, I'm Ronnie Lambeth, and this is the School of Wealth. All right, we live, everybody. Hope you're doing well. Happy Thursday. Today, we're going to be talking about establishing business credit and what you can do to build your business credit so you get, everybody wants business funding. So every Thursday, I go live on YouTube, Instagram, and every other place that we can stream at 5 o'clock Pacific every Thursday. The first Thursday of the month, I talk about personal credit, personal finances. Second Thursday of the month, I talk about business credit, business finances. And of course, we can talk about personal credit as well in the Q&A. And then on the third Thursday of the month, I talk about taxes. You know, taxes are largest expense in life. And just today, Donald Trump announced that he wants to eliminate all income tax, federal income tax, on anyone making less than 150 grand. And that's awesome. I can tell you this as a tax strategist, if you make $100,000 or less every year, you should be already paying no taxes. If you have a business, if you are W-2'd, there's not a whole lot you can do. And that's when the Trump plan is actually going to come in and actually make a difference. So let's get into the business credit, business funding portion. You can start asking your questions now. I will try to answer every single question, and usually I do get through every single question. So whether it's on personal credit, personal finance, business credit, business funding, taxes, starting a business, running a business, reducing your taxes, investments, etc., here to answer those questions to the best of my ability. Unlike many of the other social media influencers out there, I will not give you an answer unless I actually do it. Like it's one of my specialties. So if there's a question you ask me and I don't know the answer to, and it's something I don't have experience with, I'm simply going to tell you, I don't know. I have no problem. I don't. All right. So what is business credit? You see it online, or at least I do. I see it all over the internet, the interwebs, the social medias. And a lot of people on there saw one today. This woman said that if you go into a bank on a specific day of the month, there's all of these no interest, no funding, no credit check loans. I don't know if that's true or not. I seriously doubt it because I've only heard of it from one person, and it's her. And it just doesn't make sense. Why would the bank issue you money with no interest, no credit check, and just give money? And of course, she will share this information with you if you give her, $29.95 or whatever it is that she's charging for it. So there's a lot of social media influencers that talk a lot about business credit. And most people I don't know the name of the word I'm looking for, but they basically merge it together. It's business credit. They use it as, I need to get business credit so I can start my business. That's like saying I need to get personal credit so I can buy a house. The business credit portion of it is your credit score. What most people want, they don't care about the business credit. They want business funding. That is different. See, business credit is your credit report for your business. Business funding is the actual cash via credit card, loan, and lines of credit. Now, what types of business funding is out there? Like I said, there's credit cards, there's loans, there's lines of credit. There's SBA loans. A lot of people will use SBA to purchase businesses. And SBAs are really for generally experienced business owners. Or someone going to buy a business from someone else that's already an established business, and the person that's buying it has good. So you can't go to the SBA with horrible personal credit, no experience, buy a business. And the reason for that is banks want to loan money to everyone. They want to loan money to every single person in America. The problem is they can't, because they'll essentially bank, because not everyone in America will pay them back. So when you see these influencers say stuff like, I guarantee you $5,000 in the next 24 hours. Yes, it is true. There are people that can get you $500,000 in 24 hours or $100,000. They say that their loans and their lines of credit, in actuality, MCA loans, merchant cash advance. They're payday loans for business. And one of the largest payday lenders out there is Cardiff.co. A lot of the influencers have affiliate relationships with Cardiff, and you go to they're talking about it on social media. You click on the link, you go to Cardiff.co, and you put your number in there and your email, and the next day it starts. What starts is hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of phone calls and text messages. And over a 12-month period, you will receive thousands. I'm speaking from my experience. I have received less than 12 months of me going to an influencer's link in the bio, went there to check it out. I didn't realize that they were a payday lender, a merchant cash advance, MCA lender. I thought it was actually a legitimate business fund program. Well, I can tell you, in less than 12 months, I've received thousands of phone calls, thousands of emails and text messages. And I'm actually making considerable amount of money from it because I'm on the do not call list. It's a $1,500 fine every time they text me. $1,500 fine every time they call me. So I'm just backing them up, and I'm sending the letter, and I'm sending it via law firm that I'm associated with, and we're demanding a payment of $1,500. They don't, and I go to the federaltrade.gov, and I file a complaint that they're calling a do not call. And they'll face, potentially, face a $1,000 the federal government gets around checking it out. So be careful. With all that said, be careful with where you go and apply. If someone said business fund, no credit check, in the next 24 hours, that's most likely a payday loan for the business, cash advance. And the way it works is this. Let's say that your monthly revenue is $50,000 a month as your business. That's your growth. $50,000. They will say something like, hey, we will give you $50,000 at only 10% interest, and you're going to pay us back either weekly or daily. You're like, okay, well, think about that. 50 grand, 10% interest. I pay back weekly. That doesn't seem bad. It's paid off in a year. I borrow 50 grand, cost me 10%. That's $5,000. So I borrow 50,000. I pay back 55,000. That's actually not a bad rate. But what the fine print says is it's 10% per month, or 1% per day, or 2% per day. See, I'm not going to say they lie to you when they say it's 10%. They just leave out the part of when it's calculated. So you end up borrowing $50,000, and in most cases, you're going to pay back $100,000. or maybe even $200,000 or even $300,000 on a $50,000 loan. Because some of these MCA loans that these social media influencers are peddling, they're 300% interest. The CEO and founder, I think he's a CEO, but I know he's a founder, Mike, of MyPillow, the MyPillow guy, with that really catchy jingle, the MyPillow. He took out $1 million MCA loan, was lied to that it was only a 10% loan, and he took it out during COVID because he needed to do payroll. And so he took it out, and then come to find out it was a 300% loan. He had to pay back $3 million. And he has all the documentation of them saying it was only 10% and all that. So it's in court right now. So be really careful of these snake salesmen, if you will, the snake oil salesmen that are selling you the no fund or no doc business credit fast 24 to 48 hours, because most likely that's a payday loan and you're going to get ripped off. So what can you get? Well, American Express is, I have an ambassadorship with American Express. If you have at least a 720 or higher credit score and you've never defaulted with American Express, most likely I could get you credit cards. In fact, we can apply for every single credit card American Express offers, including all of the airline cards, with one inquiry, just one. They have loans, they have lines of credit all the way down to 6.5% interest. I think the last time I was on there was like 6.5 to 10% interest. That's American Express. Who else offers? Pretty much every bank out there is going to offer you business funding if you have a business credit file. But you need to build the business credit file. Unlike personal credit, it just builds itself. Personal credit, you go out, you get a credit card, next thing you know, it pops up on your credit report, and 90 days later, you have a FICO credit score. With business credit, it doesn't work like that. In fact, 85% of the world's banks don't report to the business credit bureaus at all. And the reason that they don't report to the business credit bureaus is because, unlike personal credit, our information is private. We have what's called the Fair Credit Reporting Act. It restricts people, the public, marketing companies, banks, from pulling our personal credit without permissible purpose. There is no such protection for businesses, which means if I was a banker and I worked at Wells Fargo and, oh, it looks like we're having some technical difficulties with the camera, Chastity. It just switched. We are in the studio. I'm not sure what just happened, but it's all jacked up. We are in the new studio. This is actual physical studio. This isn't green screen like I have in my other studio. So Chastity was trying to speed up the upload speed and adjusted the camera settings. So sorry for that. So back to the American Express thing. With American Express, they offer loans, lines of credit, etc. And they're really a pretty large bank. And by far, I have found they're very easy to work with. Now, you can also go to Wells Fargo, US Bank, and what I was talking about was there is no protection for business owners from people pulling your credit. Not the business owner, but for the business. So if I was a banker at Wells Fargo and I wanted to go out to the community and get new clients, because that's what business bankers' jobs are, is to go out and get new clients. One of their duties. I would go pick out who I wanted to get as a client. And I live here in Boise, Idaho. So if I really wanted a big fish, it'd be like Simplot for the food. It would be Micron. Micron's a huge employer, billion-dollar company. So is Simplot. So is Aura, Idaho. And there's many others in Boise. We're actually, surprisingly, we're like the second, like Silicon Valley. We get a lot of Silicon Valley companies moving here to Idaho because of the taxes and the climate and all the other great things about Boise. So if I was a banker, I would identify who I want to target, and then I would pay, you guys can do this. You pay $40. You go to Experian.com, pay $40, and you can pull any business in America's credit. You can pull Walmart's, you can pull Apple's, you can pull Simplots, you can pull Microns, you can pull HP's, you can pull T-Mobile's, AT&T, whatever. You get the point. There is no protection to protect the business from someone pulling their credit. And when you pulled their credit, you could see who they have loans with. You can see who they have credit cards with. You can see all of that. And this is why a lot of banks won't report that they're actually doing business with that company, because they don't want other banks to see that they've issued a $100 million line of credit to Micron. So with that is a problem, because if 85% of banks don't report, how do you build a business credit profile as a business owner? It's kind of like the chicken and the egg story. What came first? Well, I know what came first. The bird came first, because God created the bird, who then laid the eggs. Back to the story. What came first, the chicken or the egg? What comes first, a credit profile or a credit account, as in a credit card, trade line, loan, or whatever? Well, you cannot have a credit profile, a credit report, without first getting credit from someone, a line of credit. And so the first thing you need to do when you start working on your credit profile is make sure all the information is accurate. Your name, the Secretary of Website's got your name right, the address right, the phone number. Make sure you're using the proper type of email. Make sure you have a fax number, a 1-800 number. Make sure you have an actual website. Once you have all that done, we call it the compliance section. Then you start getting your we call them tier 1 vendors. This could be like Pitney Bowes, Granger, Uline, Quill. These are your net 30 accounts. These are businesses that will extend you credit at their location. So for example, there's a business here in Boise that I buy envelopes from. It's called Allied Envelopes. And they have a net 30 account. So I went down, I met the guy. I said, yeah, I want to buy, $15,000 worth of envelopes. He's like, no problem. I ordered up the $15,000 worth of envelopes. He shipped the pallet off to the mailing center down in Las Vegas and then sent me the bill. And then 30 days later, I paid it off. Now, that's pretty risky for him to do that, considering that he did not know me, but he just immediately extended me that $15,000 line of credit, if you will, on a net 30. Now, I don't know if he reports or not, because it doesn't really matter. Because once you actually have an established IntelliScore, which is the Experian business credit score, people don't really look at Paydex, which is the Dun & Bradstreet score. But in order to build your IntelliScore, in order to build your credit profile, you need to start with the tier 1 vendors, and then you go to tier 2, tier 3. So the biggest hurdle I see with business owners is building the business credit profile, because 85% of the banks don't report. So we have a software that has over 500 vendors that's inside the software that they do report. And we're constantly adding vendors and removing vendors because they change their policies. Sometimes they report, sometimes they stop, etc. So if you are serious about establishing business credit and you need help, well, we have a software for that. And Chastity can throw up the website where you can enroll for that software. And that once you enroll for it, it's a monthly fee. Unlike a lot of companies, including myself, I used to charge $7,500 up front for you to have access to the software. And after my heart attack, I decided I didn't want to spend that much time on the phone with individual clients. So how about we just give them the software and not include me, not include Rondi's services and coaching with it. I will do that on the side through stuff like this and then my private coaching clients. And so we slash the price of the business credit and business funding program. And we have bankers in there and we have brokers in there that can go out and get you funding. So where can you get the funding? Well, you go to local banks. That's a good start, is a local bank can help you with that. I would stay away from like big banks. I said Wells Fargo earlier. I'll give you a little story with Wells Fargo. I went in and I applied for a business credit card, and this is years ago with Wells Fargo. And they're like, sorry, we can't get you approved. They eventually did get me approved, and it was like a $5,000 credit card. The same day, I got approved with American Express with a $250,000 credit limit. So a Wells Fargo, $5,000 credit limit, American Express, $250,000 credit limit. The difference, just two different banks. Same credit score, same business, same revenue, everything was the same. The only difference was one was with Wells Fargo, one was with American Express. So if you are in the business credit and you're starting to build your business credit, you want to get funding, go with small regional banks. They generally can get you funded a lot faster. If you have a big multi-million-dollar business and you have great personal credit and you have great cash flow and collateral and assets, then you can go pretty much anywhere you want. KeyBank has great loans. KeyBank has great lines of credit, credit cards, etc. But the key to this is there's four things you need when it comes to business credit. One of these four, you need either good personal credit, good business credit, cash flow, or collateral. So either good personal credit or good business credit. If you have no business credit yet, because you haven't built it, because it takes effort to build it, then they're going to look at your personal credit. And as long as you have good personal credit, they should extend you funding and line of credit. If you have bad personal credit and no business credit, then they're going to look at cash flow and they're going to look at collateral. If you have no cash flow because it's a new business, they're going to look at what's your collateral. What do you have to give us in case you don't pay us back? If you have no collateral, my friend, you're just not going to get the funding because you have bad personal credit, you have no business credit, you have no cash flow, and you have no collateral. There's no way for that bank to get paid back. And I've had people say, well, I have this contract. I just need $100,000 so I can go buy the lumber so I can remodel this house and make $1 million. But they don't own the house, they don't own the equipment, and they just started the business. It's not that simple. So when you're building it, remember, those are the four things you need. Now, if you have poor personal credit, then you can build your business credit. And the difference between business credit and personal credit is you can have the equivalent of an 800 FICO in 3 to 6 months with your business credit profile. Whereas it takes 10 years to build an 800 FICO personally. And in 6 to 9 months, you can have an 850, the equivalent of an 850 or 85 PAYDEX versus 20 years on the personal side. So business is much more difficult to build because it doesn't just happen on its own. You got to spend time doing it, but it's so much faster. And once you learn the game, it's easy to build it up. The problem is not knowing where to go, what to do next. And with our software, it literally goes step by step, move by move, and it won't let you go past the section, because see, a lot of people will want to, they immediately start applying for corporate credit cards with American Express or with Bank of America, and they get denied. And because there is no Fair Credit Reporting Act, the bank doesn't have to tell you why you're denied. And many times they don't even know why. You know, the number one reason to get denied for business funding is using a Gmail account for your email. That's the number one reason of getting denied, because you're using a non-branded to your company email, and they think it's fraud. And they think it's fraud because the majority of applications submitted every day to these banks for business credit funding is fraud. So, all right, let's get into some Q&A here. I think Chastity's got the camera working again, or the things working here. Jerome says, I had someone on social media said that you can pay off a 30-year mortgage in 3 years. Is that so? Well, sure. If you win the lottery, if someone in your family dies and leaves you a big old pile of cash from life insurance, or you sold the house. But I think what you mean to say is you heard someone on social media saying you can pay off a 30-year mortgage in 3 years. Look, that's virtually impossible unless you sell it or get a bunch of money. Like if you just make the minimum payment, obviously you can't pay it off in 3 years. What you can do, and you probably heard me say this, is you can pay off your mortgage without changing your lifestyle in 7 to 10 years. And that's something I teach inside of Fortress University. It's called the Fortress Banking System. See, if you learn how to use lines of credit, 0% lines of credit, you can borrow from a line of credit, whether it's personal or business. Let's say you have a $500,000 mortgage and you get a $50,000 line of credit, and it's a 0 interest for 30 days. So you get a 30-day grace period similar to a credit card. And these lines of credits are out there. So you get a $50,000 line of credit with a 30-day grace period. You could borrow from that line of credit, say $10,000 at 0%. You take the $10,000 from the line of credit and you apply it to your mortgage. And now instead of owing $500,000 on your mortgage, you only owe $490,000. But now you owe $10,000 on a line of credit that, let's say the interest rate is 10%, but your mortgage is only 3%. So why would you borrow from a 10% line of credit to pay off a 3% mortgage? It's because in 30 days, when that bill comes due, when they start calculating the interest, you pay it off with your paycheck. So let's say you make $10,000 a month. However much money you net after all your taxes, that's how much you borrow from the line of credit. So if you make, in this case, you make $10,000 a month, you borrow $10,000 from your line of credit, you pay down your $500,000 mortgage, now you owe $490,000. That just took 2 to 3 years off the mortgage. So now it's a 27-year mortgage. But you got to pay back the 10 grand. How do you pay back the 10 grand without paying interest? You have your paycheck deposited into the line of credit, which now pays off the line of credit. How much did that $10,000 cost you now? Nothing. Cool. But how are you going to pay for your bills for the next 30 days? How are you going to buy groceries? You're going to use your credit cards to pay for everything. And at the end of the month, you borrow enough money from the line of credit to pay off the credit cards, pay your mortgage, pay your car loans, and whatever you need to. And now you have another 30 days to pay off that line of credit before you have to pay interest. The following month, you deposit your paycheck back in there, and it pays off the line of credit. If you continue to do that without making extra payments, without changing your lifestyle, without living on beans and rice and beans and getting rid of your car and turning off the electricity and turning down the heat in your house, you can do this. And in 7 to 10 years, you can have that mortgage completely paid off. Now, I just took what took me about 5 hours to explain on my coaching course. I just did that in the last 5 minutes. So can you pay it off in 3 years? Yes, if you refinance, sell it, inheritance, etc. But if you want to pay off your 30-year mortgage in 7 to 10 years without changing your lifestyle, use the Fortress banking system. But here's the thing. I got a question for you. Why would you want to pay off your mortgage? Why in the world would you not want to have a mortgage on your house? You know, they say that your home, for most Americans, is their most valuable asset. So if your home is your most valuable asset, why would you ever want to strip the lien off of your house, which is the lien that's probably protecting you from potential creditors and frivolous lawsuits? See, when you have a lien on your house and you get sued, they most likely will leave the house alone and just stick with the insurance. What I'm talking about is frivolous lawsuits. You get in a car accident. First thing that attorney is going to do that represents the person that hit you or you bumped into them. And by the way, I'm not talking about like legitimate lawsuits where you went out and committed a crime. I'm talking about frivolous stuff or accidents, or maybe your teenager got in an accident, or your girlfriend. This happened to me. My girlfriend bumped into someone in a car wash because the car wash malfunctioned and it scratched the guy's car. Did not affect my truck at all. She actually never touched the car, but she touched the spinning thing that washes the cars, and she bumped into that, which bumped into the car, and it scratched his car. He tried getting a couple $100,000 out of me. When he found out I don't own a house, I don't own a car, I own absolutely nothing but basically this watch and maybe this. Everything else, I don't own it. I control it through LLCs and corporations, but I don't own them. I control them. When he figured that out, he just settled for the insurance, and I think he ended up getting like 20 grand. And I know this because I'm with Geico. He was also with Geico. And so after talking with the Geico rep, they're like, yeah, we're going to give him 20,000 to make it go away. I'm like, for what? They're like, well, he said he broke his wrist and he had whiplash and had to go to the ER and all this nonsense. All nonsense. So if you pay off your house and you don't have your house in a trust or an LLC that's in a non-reporting state like Wyoming or Nevada or Delaware or even Georgia, then they can just, that attorney will skip trace you and say, oh, well, this guy's got a paid off $500,000 house. Screw the 100,000 for the insurance. Let's go after the house. Let's go after all of it. The other thing is, if you have a decent interest rate, which pretty much every interest rate outside of hard money loans, they're varying 2.5% up to, I think, 7.5% is the highest that we hit. That's less than inflation. And when you figure the tax benefits of it and the appreciation from it, and if you structure it right, put it in an LLC and make it a rental, that's free money. Instead of trying to pay off your 3% mortgage, how about you just make the minimum payment on the mortgage, take that money, invest it. Right now, I would buy as much Tesla stock as you can possibly buy. It's down almost 50%. At least yesterday it was down 44, 45% yesterday. I'd buy as much Tesla stock as I can possibly buy. So that was the question. Can you pay it off in 3 years? Sure. If you refinance it, sell it, or win the lottery. Otherwise, it's going to be 7 to 10 years. Willie says, in the last class, you talked about getting someone to put your credit card on, putting you on their credit card as an authorized user. Can it be more than one person, multiple cards? Yes. So authorized user, that is when you contact your credit card company and you, hey, I add my spouse, my daughter, my boyfriend, my business partner, my employee, my grandma. I want to add them to my credit card as an authorized user. What that means is they are authorized to use that credit card. They're not legally required to make the payments. They're just authorized to use it. You, as the credit card holder, you're responsible for the payments. And so they'll issue the card to that person. And then many of the credit card companies will then report your credit history with that credit card company to their credit report. instantly increasing their credit score because now your 20 years of credit history shows up on their credit report anywhere from 72 hours to 30 days later. So can you do it multiple times? Yes, there are credit cards that some of them, I think Capital One is, and don't quote me on this because I know I'm wrong on it, but I think Capital One is 49 users. And once you hit 50, they close the account. You can't issue any more authorized users. I think Chase is limited to 5 people on there at a time. I know like some of my credit cards, I can only have 5 people on at any time. And if I want like my Lowe's, $35,000 Lowe's card, if I'm going to add someone there, I have to take someone off. So can you go out and have 1,000 people add you to their credit cards and have 1,000 credit cards show up on your credit report? Sure. There's no limit on that. It's just there's a limit on how many people you can put on your credit card as an authorized user. And in many cases, you don't even have to have a card sent to them. In fact, we have on our website, we have access to over 5,000 credit cards that I can put you on within a 24-hour notice. And within 24 hours, this card could put on your credit report because we know when they report. So we have it's right on our website where you can go and do this. And there's people that actually make money. This is their livelihood, is they essentially rent their credit cards to us. And then we charge you a fee. We pay them. We take a little bit of profit for doing the paperwork, etc. And now their credit history is on yours. So technically, if you had enough money, we could put you on 5,000 different credit cards over the next 30 days. That'd be extreme. There's no reason to do that. But yes, you could do that. So that question. Can it benefit children? Absolutely. In fact, one of my EO forum mates just did that, put his 3 kids on it, and he did it on another friend do it with his adult children in their 20s, and they went literally from no credit profile up into the high 700s. I've done it where people came to me with a 400 credit score, and 30 days later, they're 750, 740s. So yes, you can do it with your children. I highly recommend it. So that way, when they turn 18, they have 18 years of credit history where all their friends who are competing against them with jobs, etc., or starting a business, they're just starting out fresh. And so now they're 18 years ahead. So yes, you can do it with kids. What happens when they remove you from the credit card? Usually what happens when they remove you is it'll show up on your credit report as terminated. That's not a negative term. That's just the way that the credit bureaus report it. That just means you were an authorized user. Now it's terminated. Same thing as closed. So it just shows up as a closed account. Sometimes they'll remove it completely from your credit report, but that's rare. It's usually it just shows as either closed or terminated. Ann Smith says she misses my eggs. You know, I'm selling eggs right now. They're $7 a dozen or 3 dozen for $20, and they are yummy. I've been feeding them over the last few days. I've been feeding them coconut oil coconut oil, I don't know if you know this, but if coconut oil at room temperature is like, it's solid. And so I've been scraping it out and dropping it in there, and they're pecking it, having a good time. So those eggs, I had some this morning from the coconut oil that I've been feeding them this week, and the yolks are so much more creamy. They're so good. Sometimes the history remains. So Melvin was saying, but does the history remain? Yes, sometimes it does. I would say, I don't know, 80 to 90% of the time the history remains. It's rare that it comes completely off. Yeah, so Chastity's brought something up, and most people are better off getting a secured card if they're just trying to build a personal credit profile. You're better off getting a secured card because it's going to report until you close it. Where a trade authorized user trade line, It shows up, it's active generally for 90 days, and then we take your name off and we sell it to someone else. The history will remain, but it no longer shows as a personal. The reason we do that is you need a 100-point boost so you can get a house. And once you get the house, you don't need 100 points. Now you have time to build it up. Or all of your credit cards are maxed out and you don't have the money to pay them off. And so we add a trade line on there, an authorized user that's not maxed out, which then fixes your utilization rate. Score goes up by 165 points. Or the third reason we do it is, let's say you had bad credit at some point. I fixed your credit. All of your secured cards are $200, $300, $400 cards. Maybe even some of your unsecured cards you got when you had bad credit. Now they're $300, $500. You're going to get stuck in that bad credit loop. And it's going to be really difficult for you to get away from a $500 secured card or a $500 bad credit card. So how do you do that? You have a trade line show up, an authorized user of a $10,000 credit limit, a $20,000 credit limit, $50,000 credit limit. And now what happens is there's not humans looking at your credit report, guys. It's all automated. So now when you go to Credit Karma and you apply for a credit card, instead of offered another $500 credit limit, you now get a $15,000 credit limit. So those are the three reasons that you'd want to do an authorized user account. It just makes things go a lot faster and easier. But if you don't have someone or you don't have the resources to pay for the authorized user account, which is anywhere from $500 to $2,000, then just get secured cards and just wait for it to slowly grow. All right. Ann says, how soon do I need to put a trade lane on before I apply for a mortgage so it reports on time? A minimum of 30 days. So if you are going to buy a house, today is March 13th. If you wanted to buy a house, say in June, I would have the trade line. I would add it in April. It reports in May. It reports in June. It'll come off in July. So I would do it a minimum of 45. I'd really say 60 days. So 60 days prior to your closing is when you should do it. And then if something happens, your closing gets pushed up, we can always extend it. But I would figure 2 months before. Melvin says, can you get a secured credit card as a business or just personal? I'm sure you can get for business, but most likely it's not going to report. Because remember when I said 85% of banks don't report? There's out there business credit card out there that reports. Now, I've been hearing from some of my Facebook groups on business credit that there is a company out there that is reporting business credit trade lines. And what I've been told is it only takes about 72 hours for the show. I haven't tested it out yet, but I've been told because they've been trying to sell me this software so I can do it myself. So if you are watching and you really want to get trade lines and you want to kind of shortcut everything and not do the work, and you have an extra $5,000, $10,000 sitting around, send me a message, send me a DM or email, and I'm sure I can get you some business credit cards to report. But again, it's probably going to cost you $5,000 minimum to do that. Whereas if you just do the work, either buy our software or learn how to do it somewhere else, in 90 days, you can just go get the cards and not have to pay for it. What else we got? Do we have any more questions, Justin, or is that it? Man, that was fast. It's 45 minutes. Okay. That's it. All right. So today is March 13th. A lot of you may or may not know this, but if you have a S corporation or a C corporation, your taxes are due tomorrow, Friday, March 14th, not April 15th, March 14th. If you have a corporation, whether it's an S corp or a C corp, your taxes are due. What can you do if you don't have them ready? File for an extension. Form 7804. I believe that's what it is. 7004. So IRS Form 7004. You need to file that if you have a C Corp or an S Corp and you have not filed your taxes as of tomorrow. The fines are outrageous. So go ahead and get your extension filed, and you should just fill out the form for your personal as well. That's going to give you up until September for your business and October for your personal. So if you end up owing money personally, file for the extension anyway, so you don't have to pay the penalties. You're still going to have to pay the tax, and you're still going to pay a little bit of interest on what's owed, but you won't pay the penalties. And the penalties are generally a lot more than what you're going to owe. So make sure you file your extensions by tomorrow, March 14th, or have your taxes done. Is that it? Okay, is that a wrap? All right, guys, I will see you next Thursday where we're going to be talking about taxes. Have a great day.